one's present. People do not in that concept. When they go and get something, they say that get way the execution of that concept, because they are really following a code, but sometimes they're also following a lead in the form of a person, and that's a big mistake. But basically, it's the gang code that holds the gang together, the code that they have adopted. A guerrilla fighter operates the same way. That's why in war, guerrillas, what they call guerrillas, unconventional warriors, because they don't have a person that's telling them what to do minute by minute. They are functioning according to what they are supposed to be doing every day at any given moment. And they have agreed to do that with themselves. They made the agreement with themselves, not with someone else. And they'll follow that line of thinking. That's why they can function. They don't look over their shoulder to see if they got anybody with them. They can function completely alone, or they can function in conjunction with other people without even talking to them. Other people are following the same code. That's why they are so difficult to defeat, because their leader is not a person.
Brother, you're the first person in the 10 years that I've been asking the question of why don't black people have any unity to answer that question. And I've asked hundreds of people. Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you for calling in today, Brother BT. We're going to free up this line and go on to take more calls and more emails for our guest, Mr. Neely Fuller.
Peace be unto you.
Respect. And telephone line is open in case anybody else wants to get through to us. 310-673-5423 is going to get you right through. 800-842-1409 is our call toll-free number. And in the UK, you can call us this afternoon at 208-002-9096. Mr. Neely Fuller, we have access to a high level of technology nowadays. Technology is something that some of us, myself included, have really utilized as mastery, as vehicle by which instruments of overturning this system, finding the flaws within the system and exploiting those flaws to be able to get our people to a new place of not only thought but also the actions that would follow. What is your perception on the technology that traditionally has been used to control us now being in the hands of the so-called victim of this white supremacist system?
The book touches on that, and that is indirectly by saying that the seeds of the destruction of the system of racism is built right into the system itself. The system of racism is a poisonous system. Now, the antidote to any poison is in the poison itself. This is why if you are vaccinated for a certain germ, what they're actually doing is putting a little bit of the germ into you so that your body becomes accustomed to it. Now, black people are subject to the system of white supremacy. So there's no way to get out of it. You can't step out of it like stepping through a door and say, now I'm free, because the system runs the entire planet. So you have to actually eliminate the system and replace it with a better system. Presumably, logically speaking, that system would be justice, because the white supremacist system is a system of non-justice. So it's the yin and yang. You do just the opposite. You come up with a better system. But the seeds of the destruction of racism are implanted in the very existence of racism itself. That's a statement that's in the back of the book that I made in 1978. The seeds of the destruction of racism, white supremacy, are implanted in the very existence of racism itself. Now, how does that work functionally? It means that you take their words and use their words against them. But you have to use them with precise definitions that reveal truth rather than falsehood. Because the words that they use, they'll use the correct word, but they'll use the incorrect definition. And I gave illustrations just by saying, you know, it's a whole bunch of words that I can name, I mean, in this discussion. If a person is interested, I mean, like, take some of the most recent words, multiculturalism, or diversity, or even affirmative action, or even African American. Now, you take these terms and you look at what the essence of these terms really mean, or what they don't mean. Some terms don't have definitions that make sense. Multicultural. Everything is multicultural. So you're not doing anything new when you start talking about multiculturalism. First of all, you take the base word, which is culture. Multi, the term, the half term that comes in front of it, means many. Multi means many. Multiculture, many cultures. Now, so then you look at the base term, culture. What is culture? Culture is what you are doing at the time that you are doing it. That's all it is now. That's all it ever was. That's all it ever will be.
Now, if we were to explore a little bit deeper this idea of culture, and we're coming close to the top of the hour break, we have a lot of emails that are coming in. We're going to get right to those. If we look at this base word culture, the way the anthropologist uses it, one could give a general description. Culture is the ways of a people, the way they live, the way they function, the way they teach. But specifically, in one of my books, I explored really the whole role of culture in moving beyond this grip of this racism, this genetic nationalism doctrine that has come to grip on us. Culture would be defined as 6 main areas of activity. That would be a people's religion, their language, their traditions, their historical perspectives, their values, and their logic. Would that be a fairly precise way of examining the distinctions of culture as they've come to have sway over our lives?
That might be one way of doing it, but it might be a more complicated way, or one of the complicated ways, or one of the simple ways. Depends on what you're comparing it to. I just simply say, so that a person would get clarity real quick, instantly, culture is whatever you're doing at the time you're doing it. That's all it's ever been. If I'm crossing the river, that's my culture. If I'm participating in a drive-by shooting, that's my culture at the time that I'm doing it. If I'm a black person participating in a drive-by shooting, at that moment that I am doing it, that is black culture, because it's a black person participating in a drive-by shooting. That is how you would define it. That would indeed be black culture. Culture is whatever you are doing, D-O-I-N-G, at the time that you are doing it. That's all it ever was. The white supremacists will have people believe that culture is something that you get on a boat and go and get off the boat and walk across the desert and dig down in the ground, and somewhere you just might discover your culture. Now, they tell their victims that, and they have their victims doing that. And they laugh because they say, we got them again. Because they are so stupid, they just listen to what we are saying, and it sounds like we are saying something that makes sense, that makes no sense at all. But they, because they are, and we teach them, they'll just do whatever we say that sounds logical. But something that sounds logical on the surface is not necessarily logical. It will not necessarily work for you either. And this is why they have black people saying that in order for them to get justice, because that's the whole issue here, not culture in isolation, but culture that produces justice. Now, the white supremacists will say, well, I can't talk to you about producing justice or making the world the way that it ought to be until you learn something about your culture. And then you will ask, well, how will I learn about my culture? Well, you'll have to go and find out what your ancestors did. Then you can come back and talk to me about justice. That is not logical. I can talk to someone about justice right from day one without knowing anything about what any ancestor did ever. Because justice just means not mistreating people. You don't have to have a whole lot of history to figure that out.
Mm.
You simply say, hey, I'm being mistreated today on this job. I don't need to know anything except how to stop you from mistreating me. So let's get that show on the road right this minute.
That's right. That's right.
You're trying to send me on a wild goose chase.